Hey, remember when I made that one video on a different channel that I re-uploaded to this channel about almost everything that was going to come out this summer and that I was totally going to watch them? Surprise! There were some animated films and shows I did not include, and to top it all off, I still did not watch everything. And here I am making a video ranking everything I watched during the summer. Kind of. I'm only going to cover shows that I have watched from April to September, so I'm sorry, Molly McGee fans, maybe in another life. Though, if you want some quick thoughts, it's earned an instant 8 out of 10. I may or may not have finished some of these, or maybe I have not caught up yet, but I don't really care since I want to get this video out as fast as possible. Without further ado, let's rank everything I watched over the summer.
Whoa. Rabbit season.
All right, yeah. Now say, I'm hunting rabbits. They're trying to chase me.
Everyone and their mother knows that Space Jam 2 is a derivative mess. Correction, it's aware of its cash grabbery nature and plugs everything Warner Brothers owns within it. This entire experience just feels like if a creator was blindly following the dumb corporate mandates that, need I remind you, are dumb. It has a sliver of an interesting emotional arc considering LeBron James trying to reconnect with his son, but it just gets drilled into nothingness with all of these drawn-out, unfunny jokes and redonkulous plot points. And Rick and Morty were there. Don Cheadle is the antagonist, which is a little weird. I do like the Wonder Woman scene with Lola Bunny, but that's about it.
So, Gelatin, what is your favorite thing about BFDI?
Meeting so many fabulous people, of course.
Aha! And Flower, what is your favorite thing about my mustache?
Give me the same questions as Gelatin.
Don't even ask why this is so low on the list. A while ago I had a video idea explaining everything that went wrong with this franchise, but that'll have to be for another time. The script is still there in my files. It's just a shame that one of my favorite animated series of all time has rapidly gone downhill ever since The Split happened, what with character arcs getting cut off and the comedy being driven into soulless drivel. Aside from that, there really isn't much to talk about here, which only serves even more into the previous claim. The animation has stayed consistent throughout the second half of Season 4, but the awkward sound mixing just makes it seem off. I'm trying not to be harsh, but if I were to let all my emotions out, I'd let them all out. Just look at how they massacred my baby. This really has just become Waifu Wars, the series. That said, it still has its production value to its benefit, and Teapot so far is a lot better than the final 3 episodes of BFB. Can't wait to see episode 2. On another episode of Disappointing Finales, it's time to recap the half-recap crash landing of Wonder Egg Priority. It's important to know that I'm only considering this episode since the rest of the series came out ages ago, and trust me, if I were to consider those other episodes, this would be substantially higher on the list. Anyway, pretty much everyone has regarded The Priority as an inconclusive mess. And I would agree, it's a pile of nothingness. The characters are still the same, I guess. I can kind of see what emotional beats and story arcs they were going with, and the Nehru AI twist does actually make sense, but in the end, it just amounted up to a rushed finale. We all thought it would be a 40-minute action special, but instead it was a 20-minute recap stitched to a 20-minute elongated cliffhanger. Boo-hoo. The series as a whole is still really excellent, it's just this one episode that is a mediocre hellscape.
Wait, you talking?
I know, it's pretty weird, isn't it?
Unlike the previous entries, Boss Baby Family Business actually took me by surprise. It's not good, far from it in fact, but I found myself liking it quite a bit, a lot better than I liked the first one. Tim and Theodore have an actual relationship that feels genuine, the little sister businesswoman was a blast, and she was a pretty great allegory for modern businesses taking the mental health of their employees into consideration. I found myself liking Tim's eldest daughter a lot, though there were moments when I felt like an Usagi drop was coming. The villain was fine for what he was, but overall the story is incredibly shaky, it yet again relies on bathroom humor, and the animation is kind of hyperactive. Overall, it was a pleasant surprise to see this turn out better than I expected, but I'm not gonna watch it again. Now we're getting into the actually good stuff, and the 5th season of My Hero Academia stands out to me quite a bit, as the only 6 out of 10 on this list. Don't get me wrong, I still really love the cast, I still like the world building, I really enjoyed the first half with Class 1A versus Class 1B tournament, but after that it kind of fizzled into a frankly mediocre arc involving Endeavor. The emotional beats were still powerful, but how long it took us to get to those points is exhausting. Currently I haven't finished the My Villain Academia arc, but so far they've not been doing a very good job adapting the characterization of the villains. Actually, they haven't done a good job on that for a long time. With the exception of Shigaraki, I love what they did with him. But I just find this season kind of dull in comparison to its predecessors. After all, we need to spend a majority of our budget on the World Heroes Mission movie. Yay.
Yeah, peace. I love peace. I'd be out of a job with peace.
I kind of fell out of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but What If is a really good deviation from the conventional entries of the MCU. I think anthology shows are horribly underrated, and I enjoyed watching each scenario unfold. Each entry was a blast to watch, and they expanded on the world building and the characters fairly well. But I think I liked this what if scenario concept a lot better when it was done with ReZero. I mean, Subaru became a mafia boss in one of those entries, but overall, this series is pretty solid. Vivo is a fairly conventional and mainstream family movie. Lin-Manuel Miranda voices Vivo, which I guess I'm fine with. The weird thing is that the monkey can talk, but nobody really understands him. I kind of like this, but it just gets annoying sometimes. Vivo himself is also a little insufferable, but I still got invested in the story. The other characters were pretty cool, especially the antagonists. The music was pretty good, which is all I'm going to say about it, but its emotional beats are incredibly powerful. I like the beginning and the end more than the middle, but the middle was pretty fun too. I especially love the beginning just because there is one specific inciting event that I wished happened in a lot more children's media. All in all, Vivo was fun. I'm glad I saw it.
Save me? You can't even save yourself!
Another anthology series that I really love. Star Wars is yet another franchise that I have just stopped caring about for a long time, but Visions was an excellent re-entry to the series. And honestly, this series is what Star Wars should be. Each episode is its own self-contained story with spectacular animation and a passionate dedication to thorough world building. I've not finished the series yet, but so far my favorites are the one with the twins and the one with the bride. It is simply amazing. It's just a shame that this is getting bashed from both sides of the same coin, what with Star Wars fans saying this ruined the franchise, as they always do, and anime fans saying this is garbage in comparison to other better anime. You know, despite it being an anthology series and so each story has to be shortened, just shut up and let people enjoy the things they watch, guys. Especially you, toxic Star Wars stans. Finally got to watch Jahi. Haven't entirely caught up, but it's a solid series so far. I didn't know, however, that petty inferiority comedy and shorties turning into queens were a big reason why this was so popular. And also that it has a similar premise to that one anime with the McDonald's demon. There are certainly some series where an inferiority complex is the main source of comedy, and it works wonders. But I think it's just that in Jahi, it's just too overplayed. Which is a little weird since I actually like Jahi's character. I think it's just that I don't like how others react to her struggle. With the exception of the landlord, she is hilarious. There's not a lot I can say since A, it's not finished yet, and B, I haven't fully caught up to it, so who knows, maybe my thoughts will change over time. Nagatoro is cute. I really like Nagatoro. I made a video a while back on a different channel about the backlash with the series and how utterly nonsensical it was that people were being shouty before a series even premiered. I also made statements about how I didn't really like bully romance stories, but after watching all of the episodes, Nagatoro is an exceptionally refreshing take on that genre. All of the characters have entertaining personalities and mannerisms, and all the skits and moments were funny as peck. It's also refreshing to see that Nagatoro and the main boy get along very well after some time, and at times the main guy jabs at her ugly side too. All in all, this was a pleasant surprise, and I'm glad I got to watch it. The second season of Villainess was mostly how I expected it to be. Wasn't anything that blew me away, but it was entertaining and immensely funny. There is a case of sequelitis in this, but it's not a distraction in any way. It is more prominent in the Wish Dream sequence episode that perfectly lines up with the prior season's wish-granting library episode. Katarina Claes is still a lovable idiot, being able to come off as naive, sweet, oblivious, but also kinda smart at times. It was so fun to see her use her villainess knowledge for the play. All of the other characters are still really entertaining, but Katarina is the only one who is exceptional in my eyes. Overall, Villainous X is a pretty great watch. The second season of the best idol anime ever, probably, finished airing back in June, and it ended off with a bang. I really enjoyed watching the entire season all the way through. It was good that for each of the Franshishu members, we had at least one episode surrounding them, including the temporary addition Mai Mai, who I also enjoyed a lot. I think my favorite episodes were Junko's episode, Lily's episode, and Yugiri's two-parter episode. Also, thank goodness we finally have an episode surrounding her. Also, the legendary Tai episode was hilarious. It's funny, it's interesting, it has lore, apparently, ? Nonetheless, I am greatly looking forward to this show's potential future third season.
How come you don't have any hobbies, Lulu? I do. I'm very good at sleeping. That's not a hobby, that's your lifestyle choice.
The long-awaited second season of Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid aired this summer, and it turned out to be pretty good. It's nothing extraordinary, but it's pretty good. It is indefinitely weaker than the first one, which I think just comes down to its humor. The first season did an excellent job of blending emotion with comedy, whereas this season has not done a very good job on that. The contrast between the humor and the seriousness is jarring, and that's me being generous, but needless to say, I did enjoy this season quite a lot. Ilulu and Take are great additions to the cast, despite all the shouty losers on Twitter. Kana and Saikawa are still pretty great. I still can't even with Lukoa, but she has her moments. And all in all, the cast is very enjoyable this season. I'm glad I got to see it. Now to wait for 20th Century Electric Catalog to air.
Box. I'll have a Neapolitan cappuccino, more cappa than chino. Make sure it's got no more than 4 ounces of milk. The beans won't have the right texture otherwise.
Vivzy Pop's breakout series, Helluva Boss, is seriously on a roll. One of the best web series, period. Earlier this year with episodes 3 and 4, but especially with episodes 5 and 6 back in April and last month. I don't think there's much for me to say here except that the animation is fantastic, the writing is great, the humor is amazing, and the characters are still as wonderful as ever. Not really my favorite usage of the worst fear trope this year though, but still a fantastic watch. To those who haven't seen the relatively short 6 episodes, I highly recommend giving it a chance.
Why do you gotta be such a sussy baka?
I've actually been putting off watching the Genesis arc of SMG4 for a long time, since at the time, I didn't have the energy to fully grasp the lore, and also the fact that Axel and Melanie played a huge role in this arc despite my negative feelings about them back then. And even then, I still don't fully get the lore, but if I'm gonna be honest, I am beyond impressed with what Kevin and Luke have done. They took two of my least favorite characters and made them some of my favorite characters period in the SMG4 franchise. And it's made me go back to past episodes to appreciate them even more. Aside from that, the storytelling and horror elements are seriously beyond commendable. It's always nice to see SMG3 again. Meggy is still my favorite SMG4 character, and that final battle in WAYYYY 2021 with the song is truly spectacular. This has its ups and downs, but it's still one of my favorite series of this year. But please guys, can we stop having wars about old versus new SMG4 and just let others enjoy what they watch?
Look at how much fun we've had. Look at how much you've both grown. Look at Sprig, I gave you this. I gave you everything. I just didn't want to be alone.
Amphibia is great. Not sure what else to say here. Season 3 started off with a bang, but I technically can't talk about that or Molly McGee, so I just need to talk about Season 2, and this season was great. I love Marcy as a character. She is my absolute favorite of the series, followed closely by Sasha, and Anne's blue powers in True Colors was a blast to experience. Also, True Colors! That was an amazing cap-off to Season 2. I don't have a strong emotional connection to this series as I do with Owl House and Sunset Paradise, or even shows lower on the list like SMG4 or Helluva Boss, but this series was still a fun ride with technically pleasing visuals and music. Like that one song.
There are a lot of dust mites around here. Apparently dust mites have souls and dies, which I did not know about.
Jeez, this show got dark. I've never really been a crazy fan of Adventure Time, but I have gained a new fondness for it thanks to Distant Lands. And holy crap, it went out with a bang. The last 2 episodes premiered this year, and they were amazing and emotionally devastating. The former being about Jake and Finn reuniting in death, and the latter being about Peppermint Butler's little identity crisis. Both were such an emotional train wreck. It's always nice to see the Lich again, and there were a lot of surprises in Wizard City. Overall, this was a great cap-off to the final few moments of Adventure Time, at least until Fiona and Cake comes out. I remember when I first watched both trailers for this anime and became intrigued by its frankly chill slice-of-life premise. It became one of my most anticipated shows of this year, and while it didn't exactly live up to my expectations, it was still a really cozy ride that, in all honesty, I do prefer this to the second season of Dragon Maid. It certainly is reminiscent of its humor. Each and every one of the characters are funny and appealing, especially the lead character. This show's comedic timing is on point. It completely understands situational and verbal irony and uses that understanding to its advantage. The voice acting and sound effects are some of my favorites of this year, and I personally love the soundtrack. There's this one part where each character sings a different genre of a song. At one point, Halkara sings a commercial jingle about how awesome her medical products are. The finale with the Maid Cafe is wholesome as heck, and the brilliantly set up World Tree Mall joke premise mashed with Small Azusa was such a fun and cozy episode. Some episodes are better than others, but this show can only be described as a hilarious down-to-earth comedy.
Greetings, great master! The heavens have opened! Your wishes will be...
Oh, a peasant boy. Well, this'll be easy.
Now I know what you're thinking. What the hell is this movie? Well, it's a movie by Sony released on Netflix, despite it almost never being properly advertised. Yikes. Despite all of that, I had such a fun time watching this movie. It's a fun modern deviation from the classic Aladdin story with a few exceptions. Lon is an incredibly funny and sarcastic character from beginning to end. Din is precious, goofy, and all-around charismatic. All the characters are fun, and I freaking love this simplistic animation style. It's fine when it's still, but When it moves, it has some of the smoothest and most satisfying movement I've seen all year. There were also some pretty great surprises and clever deviations, like how it decides to not do the liar revealed trope. I don't know what else to say, it's just so good. Go watch it if you haven't, which I'm sure is a lot of you.
誰かが言っていた。思い出した。この人だ。
To Your Eternity is a modern classic. Within its first episode, I was fully on board with this series surrounding an immortal being witnessing everybody die around him. I'm sorry about that. And while the Jananda Island arc that premiered this summer was definitely the weakest arc so far, it was still an enjoyable experience with a lot of heartbreak, especially in its saving grace that is its final episode. And when are we getting season 2? In fall of 2022. Now I'm sad. Nevertheless, I am greatly looking forward to how these future arcs will develop our beloved precious boy Fushi further.
It's that you don't think about how things will affect other people. And then when people get mad, you act like, oh no, what happened? So weird. And then you just float away like, well, it's their problem now. La la la, I'm a belle.
Remember when we were all blown away with Infinity Train's amazing first season? Do you also remember when we all bashed CN for canceling the show over a lack of child appeal? Ah, good times. Despite that, Infinity Train Book 4 was just as good as the others, which is saying a lot. Ryan and Mingi are some of my favorite characters of this year. Kez was an absolute riot. The chill slice of life character drama premise was a nice change of pace from the horror and mystery. And speaking of that, the clever visual storytelling of the train and its world building is still as great as ever. My favorite book is probably still Cracked Reflection, but this is probably a close second for me personally.
So we just do that, right?
I remember dreading this movie since the trailer showcased yet another robot rebellion, but I was intrigued by the animation and its family drama premise, and it was being made by Lord Miller along with some people behind Gravity Falls. It turned out a lot better than I expected. I originally had a full-fledged review planned for this movie, but it kinda got away from me for reasons. But in short, I loved how this exceeded my expectations. Katie and Rick Mitchell have such a believable internal conflict involving their father-daughter relationship, which is only further developed by Linda and Aaron. And I really like Pal as a villain. Also, Eric and Deborah Bot 5000 were there. They were hilarious, easily the comedic highlight of the film. I really love this movie. Just go watch it, go check it out.
Help me! First time?
I really love Luca. It's one of the best Pixar films to come out in a long time. I love the art style, the animation, the music, the characters, the story, and I guess everything. There are a few hiccups, but in general, I found this film quite the spectacle. Yes, the story is simple, the villain is simple, and the art is simple, but the emotion, the characterization, and the heartbreak is all so complex. How could you not love Luca, or anything slice of life in general? Looking at you, Aquatope on White Sand haters. Overall, I just love this movie. Go watch it on Disney Plus if you haven't already. I haven't really talked about it before, but I love Words Bubble Up Like Soda Pop. That's actually a lie. I have talked about Words Like Soda before for about 20 or so minutes. To recap that one video I made, I loved everything about the movie, from the message and themes, to the characters, to its production value, and everything in between. Cherry and Smile are some of my favorite characters of this year, with some of the best chemistry of this year. The art and animation is stellar in its simplicity. The story is so bittersweet, along with the music, which is by the same composer of the music in Silent Voice. And I love the neurodivergent-coding in this film, even if it wasn't intentional. This is such an underrated gem that needs to be talked about a lot more, but not as much as...
Ima, 見えてた? え? ようこそガマガマ水族館へ!
Holy sea bass, this series is amazing. No, it's beyond amazing. It's an ethereal experience. You guys know that I'm a massive sucker for slice of life series, especially those that heavily revolve around characters and themes, and boy is this the perfect example of that. It's not quite Violet Evergarden, but it is fairly close. This show does a remarkable job at getting the audience to care about a location, and even at times clouds their vision so much that it's practically impossible to predict where the series is going, which is absolutely to its benefit. Kukuru and Fuka are some of my absolute favorite characters of this year, as if I hadn't said similar sentiments about other characters already. Actually, between Luz Noceda of Olive House and Kukuru, I think I prefer the latter since she's handled in a much more realistic setting with its character drama-esque lens. The first half of season 1 is pretty great with a few standout episodes. The second half is an emotional roller coaster full of doubt and false hope, while still managing to be so uplifting. The second season is already currently airing, which is scary fast, so I really recommend watching the first season if you haven't. It is truly unlike anything I've seen all year. Over time, I've just grown to love Sunset Paradise even more. Just everything about it amazes me. The animation, the character designs, the backgrounds, the soundtrack, the characters, the sharp writing, the themes, and its overall charm. It's a series that honestly feels kind of immortal. It utilizes so many tropes while using them to a very effective extent. I still love the fear gas scene. Oribori's character development is substantially better than I originally thought of it, being tied between his relationship with Meggie and his connection to his grandfather. All the villains are a joy to watch, and even the side characters have distinct personalities, and I'm gonna call it, Meggie Spletzer is the best animated character of the entire year, at least until I get to watch the Violet Evergarden movie. Overall, I just love this series from beginning to end. I'm not even sure if it should be bumped up a spot to number 1, which is saying a lot considering what's in the number 1 spot for the best animated thing of summer 2021. Where do I even begin with this show? Owl House Season 2 is the best thing to have been released this year. Just everything about it is so surreal. There is absolutely no filler so far, which is to its benefit since it's a lot more story-driven and serialized than the first season. All plot lines are now integral to the overall story, and so many scenes and moments are put forward in ways that make them so memorable, groundbreaking, and influential, more so than anything else this year. The premiere, Lilith and Hootie's friendship, the Blight parents, King's dad, Jean-Luc, Gwendolyn, Gus's development, the Lumity kiss, Hunter's introduction, Rain whispers, Ida's requiem, the Hootie episode, Luz and Amity's relationship, Amity versus Hunter, V, and Camila Noceda's heartbreak are some of the highlights of the entire show. Luz and Amity are by far my favorite couple in anything. And did I mention the animation is boss? Honestly, if you have nothing to watch currently, this is the number 1 thing I can recommend to you. You know, aside from Violet Evergarden. And that's everything I watched this summer ranked. Now, I know that isn't everything that came out. I still haven't gotten to watch Odd Taxi, Vivi, Duke of Death, the Tony Kaba OVA, Bluey, Centaur World, or even Kid Cosmic Season 2. But I will definitely check them out in the future. Not any of the throwaway anime I put in my original video because I heard that they were really bad. And for those wondering, at the time of recording, the Violet Evergarden continuation movie is going to be out in a couple of days. It's probably already out now, and if that is the case, watch it. That is, if you've already watched the series that I gave a 10 out of 10. Fun fact, that's the only series I've ever given a 10 out of 10 to. Also, even though I technically couldn't put this on the list, please watch Molly McGee if you have the time. It's an absolute wholesome blast. Anyways, tell me what you all watched this summer, guys. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. It takes hours and days to make these videos, whereas it takes a few seconds of your time to do those 4 actions. As always, thank you for watching, and see you next time.